basically what I've come about is kind of like I got the fitness, because it's body, mind, and spirit. That's what I've been promoting since the beginning. So the body part is like the fitness part, where the general fitness, they get tested on that, and it's not really like necessarily an official test, but like if they do, certain, pretty well, I might videotape it, but it's like basic fitness. So they get assessed on like their bench press, their pull up, their squats, their handstand push-ups, and I also decided to do like chin-ups type thing, but they get assessed on like their fitness ability, but the problem with that is that there's some people that don't want to train here and they just want to train at home and they just come in here fit already, and then then essentially you could have somebody who is like, he's been here for like 3 years, and then all of a sudden a new guy comes in through the door, but then the new guy is even more fit than the person who's been here for 3 years. You understand? Because the fitness is something that anybody could work on, no matter what school they're at or what location they're at. You know what I'm saying? But nonetheless, like the fitness is a part of the overall assessment. And then but back in the day, I used to put an overemphasis on the fitness, and that wasn't good because it was like people were coming into the door that are already fit that ended up being outranking people that have been here longer. You know what I'm saying? Which is not really fair to the people that's been here longer. Because how could somebody that I just met for the first day represent the school, even if he's fit? How's he representing the school when he didn't even train here? You know what I'm saying? So, there was an overemphasis on the fitness. Now, it's not overemphasized anymore. Now, it's just part of the overall components of the 3. The next component is like the combat component, and really, the way that I've got it now, I like it more because I could assess where they're at more easily in comparison to the other students. So, right now, I mainly have 2 forms that we're developing. One of them is the tiger form, which is the one that you always see that's online, the one that all my kids do with me and everything. So we developed the tiger form, or I developed the tiger form into 3 parts. So like I'm adding more parts to it, and I'm extending the form to make it longer. Now, pretty much there's a good amount of people that I train that have the form like memorized pretty well. So they need to get that form down. Like that's one of the basic forms. And then the next form is the Phoenix form, and this is kind of like the bread and butter of the school. That's like the one that's on the wooden dummy. So I've made the form so far into 3 parts, and each part is almost like 5 minutes each part, and then you do it on the right side and you do it on the left side. So if you do the right side and the left side, you're talking about like almost 30 minutes long that you're working on this wooden dummy. You know what I'm saying? So like everybody's at a different place in that. So there's students that are ranked based on who knows the form more than others. You know what I'm saying? So you could have somebody that's been here longer, but if they're slacking in their training and they don't really know the form that well, it will show like clearly right there that this person is not of rank. He might have been here longer, but he doesn't know the form the way that he should. You know what I'm saying? So then that shows like the lack of discipline in his training. So then basically, like that's a huge indicator of like who is more ranked, like higher ranked in the school than opposed to who's not. Because the sparring, for example, is just like the fitness. Some people are just naturally good at sparring. And sparring is hard to assess because there's so many different people to spar with, and everybody's different. You know what I'm saying? So sparring, even though that's an important component too, is not really that much of a good gauge to see where the person's at in comparison to other students. So I like the Phoenix form is consistent. It's like, okay, there's a wooden dummy in front of you. Let me see if you know the form. And the same thing with the tiger form. It's just like you're by yourself and you got to do the form. It's not about other people. So like the wooden dummy is a huge component into assessing the person's development in the combative aspect. And then there's the spiritual aspect, where I'm holding meditation classes like once a week every Saturday for an hour, and it's a free lesson for open to the public. So basically, the more times that my students show up to that, and the more that they put effort to learn more about meditation and practice it, then they advance further in the spiritual aspect of the school. So those three components combined will be an assessment to where the student is in accordance to the school and their rank. So based on those assessments, now it's more clear to me like which students are at a higher level than others. And I don't necessarily have to tell them, but I do tell them. I tell them, hey, this is where you're at. And then what ends up happening is when they see where they're at and they see that they're not number one, then that motivates them to try to become number one, or it motivates the person that is number one to make sure that he stays number one. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So it's like, that is how I decided to have my ranks in the school. It's a verbal thing. And another thing is just like, what I like about the verbal is that I could, it could change like very quickly. Like somebody could stop training for like a month or two and then they fall behind and then somebody else ends up like passing them up. And it's like, it's not like I'm giving them a shield or a belt to say, okay, you're here. I don't give them anything. I'm just verbally telling them where they're at. And then once they fall back, then I just let them know, like, hey, you fell back and this person's over, he outranks you now.
But you're not encouraging them to compete with one another, eh?
It's more about like bringing themselves up to their own potential. Now if it's like competition, I'm not like telling them, it's not really like telling them to compete. It's more about getting to your potential and making sure that you are maintaining or progressing according to your level. You know what I mean? Like, so for example, like Bang has been here the longest, right? That I've met, because everybody else has left. He's like the only one that's been here the longest, right? Like he's supposed to be setting an example for everybody new that's coming in after him. But for example, because he's been slacking, the people that's been coming in after him have been passing him up. You know what I'm saying? Passing him up in the fitness, passing him up in the combat, passing him up on the spiritual training. Now that's not supposed to happen. You know what I'm saying? So it's not a competition. It's mainly other people showing his lack of discipline. You understand? It's kind of like, like he's supposed to be the number one person, and I don't want anybody to pass anybody up. So if he's my number one student that gets in here, it's my job to keep him number one. And then the next person that comes in after him, it's my job to make sure that, that he's number two. And then the next person after that he's number three. So then it's like a, kind of like a chain of command that never breaks. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's kind of like your older brother was born before you. There's no way that you're supposed to be born before him. It just is what it is. He's born before you. That's just not going to change. So it's supposed to be like, all right, number one disciple stays number one. Number two disciple stays number two. Number three stays number three. They stay at their rank, according to when they join. But the thing is, once they slack off, then it shows that when the person starts passing them up, it's supposed to show them that, hey, you are not, living up to the standards of what should be expected, within the school. You need to represent, like basically, Bang is supposed to be representing the school to a high standard according to what he could fulfill. Like say if in case something happened to me, I died or whatever. But he's not. So it's just basically another student is basically highlighting his flaws that he needs to basically get back on, get back in line and make sure that he gets back to where he's supposed to be. I'm not encouraging any students to surpass anybody. I'm just encouraging them to continue to train, to maintain, and to better themselves. And basically, we're all supposed to progress as a unit. We're not supposed to have one student, progress over somebody else, and then keep it in a competition amongst one another. It's supposed to be as like a team, like you're all on the same team, we're all on the same basketball team and whatnot. We're all supposed to progress together. But one person starts falling off, it doesn't mean that everybody falls off with them, obviously. It means that, hey, we need to pick this person back up and get him back to where he needs to be. Kind of like the Chicago Bulls, and then D Rose hurts himself. Nobody wanted him to hurt himself. They want him to be healthy. You know what I'm saying? They want to make sure that he could get back in the court and do what he's supposed to do. And that's kind of like a Bang, like a Bang that's just kind of getting lazy, that he needs to get back in the game and make sure that he's leading by a good example. Because he's not being a good big brother right now. He's not leading a good example. And then what ends up happening, the little brothers are surpassing the bigger brother, and that's not supposed to happen. So I need to get him back to where he's supposed to be. The little brother's not supposed to be stronger than the bigger brother. So now that I got this now that they know that I'm actually paying attention to their development, it's kind of like, giving them more motivation to kind of do better. Rather than just be like, oh, I don't care where you're at. You guys just come in here late, come mess around, and just don't take anything seriously. I mean, it's like, now there's more like, okay, like I'm paying attention. And not only that, but the other students are looking at you as an example. Like, why is the bigger brother coming late? Why is the bigger brother doesn't know the Phoenix form? Why is the bigger brother weak? You know what I'm saying? It's like he's just like, the bigger brother, why is he getting his ass whipped in sparring? You know what I'm saying? It's like, it don't make sense, So it's like, every school needs some type of motivation. And this school just happens, we don't have belts. We don't do the shields anymore. Now it's all verbal. These are only for the martial arts students. The fitness people, they're on their own thing. They're just like, I do private training with them, and they don't got to worry about anybody else. They just worry about their own self, But the martial arts is like, if you've been here before somebody else, there should be no reason that this person knows the Phoenix form or the Tiger form better than you. When they can only learn it from this school. Like, this person might be more fit than you. This person might be able to run better than you. This person might be able to spar better than you. Because you could develop those things outside the school. But they should not know the forms better than you.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? And they should not be ahead of you in the meditation training within the school, because that's being assessed on your presence within the meditation. Like, you got to be here for that. You know what I'm saying? You got to be here for the meditation. You got to be here for the combat training. But, some people, people don't necessarily have to be here for the fitness training. You know what I'm saying? But those other aspects are so important for the school, because it shows that you're actually in the school. You're actually training with the school. So, like, they need to get good at all three of those areas. Before, it was just too focused on the fitness, and then people would just come in and be like, all right, I'm outranked you now because I'm more fit than you, and then they've just been here for like a month or something, and then somebody else has been here for like a year, and it's just like, it's not fair for the person who's been here for a year. Just because somebody's more fit than you, it doesn't mean that they're outranking you, because they don't even know anything about the school. They've just been here for a month. What do they actually know? They don't know anything.
Yeah.
They're just somebody that's fit. Well, big deal, okay, you're fit. Okay, now what, So there's too much emphasis on the fitness back then. Now it's more like, it's more developed, more balanced, where now there's more of a true indication of who's actually ranked in this school and who's not, And I'm only focused on a few people, maybe like 3 people. Everybody else is like, they're not even close to being even worth considering being ranked, because because they're just not there yet. So basically, another thing that I've put into consideration is basically people don't really get ranked unless they're here for at least over a year. Because everybody here that is ranked, they've been here for over a year. So everybody that walks in the door, you can't even be put in consideration of being ranked because you haven't even been here for a year. You know?
Okay.
So, like that way, I'm happy with it because it could change. It's adapting. It's not something that's stagnant. It's not something that's just stuck in stone. Oh, you got this belt. Okay, here you go, and you're there forever. No, it's like, you know what I'm saying? Because there's people that remember things and they forget it. Well, as soon as you forget it, then you lost it. You better make sure that you get it back, you know? Same thing with the fitness, you know?
Yeah.
So Bang used to be ranked number 1. Now he's ranked like number 3, the worst. You know what I'm saying? So now, you know, like, I'm just making it out there. Like, I'm just being real about it. Like, and I told him. I told him. I told the other students. I told people on YouTube, like, hey, man, you fell off, dude. And then now, now he's finally, like, trying to get back on board. You know what I'm saying? But he's got a lot to catch up on.
Okay.
You know, he's got a lot to catch up on. So, but yeah, that's my new way. And then now, if I teach online, I can start getting other people involved into, like, taking the training more seriously. Because then they can learn the Tiger form, they can learn the Phoenix form, they could get the fitness, and then they could attend the meditation with me. Because I could just turn on the computer for the meditation too. Do you know what I'm saying? So then, like, essentially, I could start almost training people online as if I'm training people here, you know? If I really wanted to do that, I can. Because I'm taking, right now, the emphasis of the school is like a lot less emphasis on sparring. Like, we don't really spar that much anymore because the energy that I get from the people that I'm training right now, they're not sparring type of people, you know what I'm saying? Like, so, like, we don't spar that much anymore because that's not where the energy is. The energy is more spiritual, and it's more fitness, and it's more meditative, it's more like combat type of training, drills and type stuff like that right now, you know? So it's less ego based, you know? So, but yeah, that's what's going on.
So in the sparring, there are 2 people that are not fit for it. One with the ones that have an inflated ego, and other people that are